1 second, peeps. Almost with you. Special shout out to Adam and Dex, really, but this is Adam on the tunes. Our new theme song. All right, everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. You're on the lifeboat. Riding on the lifeboat. All right, thumbs up. I like it. Please hit the thumbs up on the way in, people. It does help with the algorithm. And that'll help the boat. I'll tell you what, people, you talk about burning the candle at both ends. You talk about going hard to the paint and doing a little extra work. About 5 minutes ago, I was in a car on the way home. This has been a day that I got so much done. I really did. My brother knows. I did a lot today. Got a lot done. And but I got home in time to do the boat, so I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, pretty much had everything under control. I went over into the lifeboat group page today, and I saw a post from somebody that said, I'm trying to put together my 5. People, get over there and look. Look for people. If you see someone that's looking for their 5 and you don't have 5 people who are leaning on you, if you don't have 5 people who are going out of that forget your 5. If you don't have 5 people who are contacting you if they have a problem, then start reaching out and getting some people, man. In all honesty, with the number of people we have who are active on the boat, there should never be anyone that doesn't have 5 people to contact. That web should go everywhere. And by the way, you can be in each other's 5, right? Johnny could be in my 5. I could be in Johnny's 5. In fact, we are. You know, you one person does not have to be the superior of the two when it comes to sobriety. You just need someone that's going to listen and ask questions and be there and actually care. It's not a tall order, right? It really isn't. Again, shout out to Marf. I love the new theme music. It was a very, very kind thing for him to do. And the guy's talented, man. He just does it on the fly. You know, he's a really talented cat. You know, but so today, in keeping with my in keeping with the full week talking about relapse, I'm going to be talking about something that comes up all the time. And there's a part of me that wants to laugh a little bit. And it probably isn't the right thing to do, but I think you'll find it funny. I get emails from people all of the time that say to me, I just don't know what to do about boredom. I don't know what to do about boredom. People, the definition of boredom is what? It is when you are not engaged in any way mentally with anything going on in your life because you're doing nothing. You know, people can get bored doing something, but that's a rare thing. For the most part, people are bored because they're not doing anything. So the question, how do I deal with boredom? Do something. Find your passion. And it doesn't need to be, your passion doesn't need to be what mine is. It doesn't need to be what M. Hunt's is. It doesn't need to be something that is absolutely all-encompassing in terms of exciting or any of that. It just has to take up time, right? If it grows into something that is just, I mean, you know, something that really, really makes you happy and something that you think about all of the time, well, awesome, right? Best case scenario. But especially in the beginning, it's very much like everything else in society. I mean, in sobriety. When you first start, just find stuff to do. Find things to do. I don't even care if you're into it. Read. Spend a decent amount of time reading books. I was talking to somebody today, maybe it was Johnny. Honestly, I don't remember. But I was talking to somebody today about boredom, you know, and I was talking to them about the concept of the fact that two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So you can't have two thoughts at the same time. And it was Johnny. And he said, even if you have ADHD, it doesn't happen. You tend to believe, and there are jokes made about it in Saturday Night Live skits about how people with ADHD are thinking 15 thoughts at the same time. That doesn't happen. They may jump from thought to thought with the frequency of a cheap hand radio, but they're not having two thoughts at the exact same time. That's an impossibility. So the reason that we're talking about boredom tonight is it is absolutely a killer for sobriety. It's the fastest way down the steps to get to that physical part of relapse, where you pull the trigger, where you go and do your substance of choice, and you destroy how much time you have in sobriety. No, it doesn't ruin anything. You didn't fail, but make no mistake, if you had 35 days and you get high today, tomorrow you have 0. And is that a huge deal? I don't know. I guess it's different for every person. I view it this way. Let's say you're somebody that drinks every day of your life, and you've been drinking every day of your life for 10 years. And last year you relapsed twice. Does that make you a failure? That makes a 365-day period of time with 2 times where you get inebriated. To me, you've made great strides. In a perfect world, we don't relapse ever, right? But the world isn't always perfect. And some of the things that make relapse really, really scary and really, really dangerous apply only to certain drugs. And these days, a lot of drugs. Even if your substance of choice is the Bolivian marching powder, right? Or if your substance of choice is, the stuff they used to call crank, you still stand a pretty good chance of getting some fent in it. The stories are all over the place, everywhere you look, that those substances are being cut with fent, or worse, with ISO, which is the street name for the first, the most popular form of the nitazines, the phytonitazines and the isonitazines. Apparently, the one that's really taking the country over, especially in the Southeast, is the isonitazine. And for that reason, they're calling the stuff ISO. But there's a real danger in relapse if the substance that you do is snortable or injectable or smokable or any of that stuff. You stand a very good chance of leaving the planet on your relapse. People, it takes very little time to build a huge tolerance with opiates. I don't mean if you started today, right? That would take a little bit more time. But if you're already an addict, we've talked about this many times on the boat. Let's say you're an opiate addict and you quit for a year, or you quit for 5 months, or you quit for whatever. Your tolerance goes like this. But in your mind, the addiction continues to progress. So while your body might only be able to now do 1/4 gram without being in danger of overdose, your tolerance in your head has been going up. The amount of stuff that you think that you want to do has been going through the roof. And for that reason, the stories are just unbelievable. How many times you hear of somebody that they say, you know what, man, he hadn't done it in 5 months and he fell off the wagon and died that time. Duh. Sorry. But you're going to be at your lowest tolerance and you're jumping back in very often with that excitement that, man, I want to just do a little bit more than I normally do. You know what I mean? Because I'm not doing it very often. Instead of doing my normal, half a G, I'm going to do, normally I would do a half a G. Now I know I'm in, that I've been clean for a long time. So instead of doing a little bit, I'll just do a little bit less than a half a G. Knowing that I should probably be doing 1/4, I'm going to do a little bit more because I'm only going to do it once. So I may as well do it right. Even in the old days, this killed people constantly. Famous rock stars went out that way. For those of you who are a fan of the band Sublime, right? The lead singer was a man by the name of Bradley Nobel, and Brad died on a relapse. He hadn't used in a very long time. He was clean and sober, and somebody gave him something and told him that it was the best stuff in California. And it ended a really awesome career and a great life. And he was a father and It's just a tragic situation. I don't want that to happen to anybody here on the boat. I really don't. So we need to have this relapse thing in the crosshairs of what we talk about. And it needs to be something that we understand beyond any shadow of a doubt. So yesterday we did a show and we talked about the 3 steps, right? So you're going to start off with emotional problems. And then you're going to slide to mental problems where you start thinking about all of the reasons that it's not that big a deal. I have this under control. Now I know I can do it because I've been clean this long. I've already proved I can get clean. I'm only going to do it once. All that self-talk, all those automatic negative thoughts. That's the second stage. And the third stage is I went ahead and did this, right? It's the worst case scenario. The absolute worst case scenario is that you get to the physical part of the addiction. And if you get to the physical part of the addiction, then nothing good is happening, right? Nothing good is happening at all. And that's tragic. We want to avoid that at all cost. So what starts the ball rolling? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. And hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Throw in guilt. And above all, people throw in boredom. You've heard expressions like idle hands is the devil's workshop, right? And there's truth to that. If you're sitting around doing absolutely nothing, you're giving your brain an opportunity to run wild because you're not engaging it in any way. Well, it's not true, Tommy. I was sitting on the couch. I was watching something on TV. Not what I'm talking about. Not what I'm talking about. Cat videos, they got a place. Movies have a place. But if you're sitting alone watching a movie, right? You're not with people. They're not discussing what's going on. You're not engaged. You can watch a film on autopilot, even if it's one you've never seen before. But God forbid it's a film you've already seen. Your brain is going to go on autopilot. You're going to know what the next scene is, and you're just sort of sitting there. And while you're watching it, and something about Mary, or you're watching whatever film, the automatic negative thoughts are going to start running. The ants are coming out of the hole, and they're going to start to absolutely devour you. And even if the negative thoughts don't come, you're going to find yourself in that moment where you're really uncomfortable in your own skin. Doesn't really much matter whether it's discomfort because you just feel that screaming inside, or whatever, however you choose to describe it. There's nobody here that doesn't know what I'm talking about. It's that feeling that I don't feel right. I just don't feel right. And I need to get back to feeling right. And as we talked about, I don't know if I talked about it last night. We certainly talked about it this morning. And I think I may have mentioned it last night. But I've worked with gambling addicts. I've worked with people whose substance, the way that they turn on their dopamine receptors is through gambling. They're addicted to losing. Sounds stupid, doesn't it? Yeah, they're holding out for a win, and they celebrate them, and they high five, and they yeah, woohoo. But their brain's not going to be comfortable with that, because from the mindset of somebody who gambles, all of a sudden you're a winner, and the gambler can't cope with that. Their brain has gotten very accustomed to that person walking in with an entire paycheck and saying, I'm only going to bet 100. I don't care what happens. I'm only betting 100. I'm going to see if I can double this up so I got a little bit more money to take home to the girlfriend, the wife, whatever. And then you lose 100 and you go, you know what? I can lose 200 because I got to get back that 100. And pretty soon they're putting the last $100 bill from their paycheck on the table or into the machine. This is something I hear every time I talk to somebody who struggles with gambling. And they're addicted to losing. They're addicted to that feeling of always having not a dollar in their pocket. That feeling of always wishing that, that walking out the door and wishing that they just had one more 100 to put in there. But it is one of those addictions that can't be satiated. It doesn't matter how much you gamble, you're never going to gamble enough because it's not about winning. I had a friend. I never counseled him, by the way. We just spent time hanging out with one another. And he also had a drug problem, which is why we knew each other. But he was a gambling addict. And he used to say every time he went in, if I hit a jackpot, right, he played the machines. And honestly, I never watched him, so I don't know exactly what he was playing on the machines. But he was sitting in a machine feeding money into it. Video poker, slots, Keno, whatever. But he would say, if I hit a jackpot, I'm going to quit forever. I just need that one jackpot. I'm just doing this until that jackpot comes. It's never going to come. And if it did, he would continue to pump that money into the machine. We get addicted to a baseline. Whatever you've been doing in your brain for the last 15 years, the last 5 years, the last 3 years, to allow you to be comfortable in your own skin. You say, well, Tommy, nobody's going to be comfortable in their own skin after they just lost their paycheck. Yeah, they are. As bizarre as that sounds, the depression is a completely different thing. They might walk around thoroughly depressed, but they're not going to have that feeling of, if I don't feed this, I'm going to die. If they lose enough money, they can probably get away with not gambling anymore until the following day. But that baseline feeling of losing is the same thing that people do with drugs, except our baseline is high, loaded, drunk, stoned, whatever. So if you're sitting on a couch and let's say you're in your first year of sobriety, right? Even the first couple of years of sobriety, but you're sitting on a couch and you're doing absolutely nothing but watching TV. It's 3 p.m. or it's 7 o'clock at night and you are just sitting on the couch doing absolutely nothing. This is my opinion. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but that's a small window you're working with, people. A really small window. You know, you want to watch 30 minutes of news? Knock yourself out. You want to sit down for a 2-hour movie? I don't think it's going to work. I really don't. Sorry. And there are people that have written to me on this and they say, well, I watch documentaries. Well, that's better. Make no mistake, that's better. You're engaging your mind. If that's going to be something that you feel like you need to do to get through a day, you can't schedule something else during that time that's going to engage you more. Then get a notebook and take notes. I mean it. Engage more parts of your brain. In everything you do when you're bored, engage more parts of your brain. How many times have you heard me say, change your scenery? You get that feeling that you're uncomfortable in your skin and you just, right? You're just not feeling right. It's the Jones. It's whatever you want to call it. But that feeling that I need to feed my buzz. Get the hell out of the room you're in. I'm not saying that because there's some kind of magic about leaving the room. But there is. Because what happens is you're going to engage senses you haven't seen. There was a study done in the 80s that was absolutely fascinating. And I mean fascinating. They took, and this was done, of course, with animals because that's usually the way it's done. But they set up a little environment for an animal. And then they feed this animal a drug. In this particular experiment, the drug was cocaine. And they build up the tolerance of this rodent until it's doing X amount of the substance. A larger amount, obviously, than they possibly could have done when they first started. And in their little environment, there's a wheel, there's this, there's that, and it's all set up, right? And they do that for about a month to a month and a half. And then they take that rodent and they put it into a brand new environment. It's not stark, but it's completely different. All the colors are different. The wheel is a completely different setup. The toys, everything is different. And then that animal does the exact same amount of the drug. Do you know what happens? It overdoses. On the exact same amount it's been doing every single day for the last month. And you say to yourself, well, that doesn't make any sense. But it does. You see, dopamine is released into the brain as novelty. When you're doing something you've never done before, your body is naturally going to be releasing a lot of dopamine into the body. Well, if you're going to do a substance that multiplies your baseline by 10, well, this is your baseline. And before you even do any dope, your baseline gets to here, right? Now you double or triple that. The same thing happens to people. You know, a guy sits and he snorts, a gram and a half of the stuff every single day, and he does it for 9 years. Doesn't leave his apartment. Sits there, chops his stuff up, lines it out. And then one day he goes on vacation, and he does the exact same amount in a place he's never been, and everything around him is new and unusual, and he's already dumping out more dopamine, and he overdoses. This is the reality. Why am I bringing this up? Because the brain gets programmed to what we give it. The brain gets programmed to what we give it, and then it demands it. No matter what it is we're doing, if we're doing it every single day, the brain will begin to demand that in order to let you feel good. You ever seen workaholics? I mean the real ones. Not some guy that says, well, I'm going to put in an extra hour this week, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. No, I mean a straight running workaholic. The kind of guy that works 60 hours a week and is unhappy because he didn't put in 70. And when he gets home, he gets to his computer and starts working on the project for the following day. He's never off, or she's never off. They're literally workaholics, right? You know why that is? Because they have made a baseline of success. They've made a baseline where their comfort level only works. They only feel comfortable in their skin when they're working as hard as they can for as long as they can. So they get home and they go, oh, it's a tough day at work. And they recline back and they just sit, and then instantly they go, I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel right, right? And they go over to the laptop and they start going right back to what their baseline is. As human beings, our brain will seek out what it knows. So if getting sober is in your future, if getting sober is something you're serious about, and this is a lifestyle, you say, for the rest of my life, I don't want to do this stuff anymore. I actually want to get sober. Well, then why don't you take a couple of minutes and figure out what your damn baseline is? Figure out what your brain is going to want you to be doing. Now, you say, well, obviously, Tommy, my brain wants me to be high. Okay, I get that. But there are more intricacies to that, right? Does your brain want you to be high sitting in your living room? Does your brain demand that you do a bunch of methamphetamine and go dumpster diving? And I'm not being a smart aleck or anything else, but there is a large segment of the population that goes, and I don't mean they're looking for food and I mean they go to businesses that throw out expensive stuff, like they hunt stuff down. There was a bunch of people Johnny and I used to know in this town that did this every single day. They would do a ton of crystal, and then they would go and hit dumpsters, and they would jump in them and crawl through them and look for all of these things. One of them's name was Dan, and they called him Dumpster Dan. And this was not a poor individual. He wasn't a bum. He wasn't anything like that. But this was at some point that lit him up. And now his baseline is doing meth and crawling through dumpsters looking for scores, right? The point being, if you have been failing and sitting around your living room doing absolutely nothing, boredom is more dangerous to you than it would be to somebody else. I hope that makes sense. Did a light bulb just go off? If you have been sitting on the couch in your living room, wasted for 10 years, and now you're just going to go and sit on that couch and not bring in the drugs, how do you think you're going to do? It won't just be boredom. Do you understand? Boredom is there's not a lot going on. You're sitting in a den that means drugs to your brain. Well, you say, what do I got to do? I got to move? No, you have to change what you're doing. You can be in the same room. Don't do the same thing. Q nailed it. Q nailed it. Ask yourself, did I do this when I was getting high? Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Did I do this when I was getting high? No, man, I never did that. Well, then I'm going to take it up. I'm going to start doing a lot of it. Making your bed, right? Becoming organized, whatever you need to do that is the 180-degree difference from what you were doing. You understand? The problem is that we cave into boredom. We cave into it. It is relapse's best friend. It really is. It is such a weapon. And you can call it your brain. If you're religious, you can call it Satan. If you believe in karma or whatever. But there is an evil force in here. Sitting inside your dome piece is an evil force that wants you to get high. Every day is a fist fight taking place between your left and your right ear. You against your brain. And that's so counterintuitive to anybody that's logical. Well, it doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't your brain want what's best for you? Because your brain wants what's easiest for you. Your brain wants no change, nothing different. Why do you think dopamine gets released when you're doing something novel? Because your brain can't handle it. Your brain's going, this is crazy. He's not going to be able to deal with this. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give him a little dopamine, take the edge off, help him focus a little bit. So if I get a phone call from you and you say, I'm sitting in my living room and I feel like I need to get high, I'm going to say to you, get the hell out of your living room. It's not just the fact that those four walls represent something to your brain, although that's absolutely huge. But that's not it. How many of your senses are you engaging? You understand that, like the concept of neuro-linguistic behavioral training, the same kind of things take place in life. So what I mean by that is this. If I take out a bottle of patchouli oil and I take the top off of it and I go, hey, smell this. And you take a sniff, and all of a sudden, you've got a part of your brain working that wasn't working a second ago. You understand? The olfactory senses in your brain are now going nuts. They're parked, by the way, right next to your memory. The same part of your brain that deals with not just memory, but old memory is so close to the olfactory part of your brain that there's no better stimulator for memory from the past than a smell. And we've all experienced that. You know, somebody passes away and they wore a very particular type of deodorant or a very particular type of cologne or perfume. And you're somewhere and that person walks by. And just like that, you're back to wherever you were the last time you smelled that. So when we get outside and we start walking around, our eyes are seeing a panorama that doesn't have four walls. This is going to stop boredom instantly. But at the same time, I'm sitting in here right now. The chair's creaking a little bit. In about a minute or two, the watch winder's going to start making some noise. But they're the same noises. You go outside, you hear a car go by, you hear wind, there's a bird chirping in the tree. So now you've got the auditory stuff going off in your brain, which requires a lot of work for your brain to put together. And everything you're looking at is brand new. You look out and you go, oh, damn, man, it looks like it's going to snow. And then a car goes smoking by. Hey, was that a Porsche? What was that? Think about it. You go out for a walk, and every single thing that you see forces you to have a new thought. Oh, look at the mom. She's got one of those two strollers with two little kids in it. I wonder if they're twins. Your brain starts firing off new thoughts, right? And while your brain is firing off new thoughts, it's using every single part of your brain. Or you can sit in your living room and get high, because that's what's going to happen. When you start feeling boredom, there's a window. There's a window of opportunity. We've talked about it many times on this lifeboat. If you have been getting high for a really long period of time and you think to yourself legitimately, man, something's got to give. I can't keep doing this. That window opens. And I literally pray that when that happens, I'm nearby. Like that's my opportunity to come swooping in and start telling people that there's a better way to live. And that's the only time that that individual is going to be receptive to hearing what I have to say. Short of incarcerating them, that's probably your only hope, is when that window is open. And we've talked about it so many times. It's the reason that I don't like not doing shows, right? I don't like canceling a show because my fear is that someone was going to come by tonight and their window was going to be open and it may not be open again, right? Or it may not be open again for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. I want to pop people when that window is open. I want to get them right then, and I want to get them into the fold and start explaining to them that there's a better life out there that has nothing to do with going into your wallet. Not a lot of time gets spent on the other window because the other window is a little bit more frightening. So you're sitting on the living room couch and the boredom begins to kick in and you're just sitting there and you're feeling bored as hell. And then a little thought, just a glimmer of a thought goes by. And our brain is insidious. It's not going to go, get high. It's not going to do that. It's going to wait till something comes on TV. And it's going to remind you of something. They're going to show a commercial. And in the commercial, it's going to be like a flashback scene. And they're going to be showing some person getting out of a 1982 Toyota Corolla, red. And you're going to look at it and you're going to go, oh man, my friend Jamie had one of those in high school. Man, we used to drive around in that thing and get wasted. There's the window. There's the window. Those first thoughts come in, and all of a sudden, instead of thinking about how you view drugs as this awful thing. Now you're reminiscing about the good old days when drugs were still fun. Man, we used to have so much fun riding around getting high. Oh, we used to have so much fun in that car. You'll start to think about the good old days, and you will romanticize a drug that destroyed your life. And that window begins to close really quickly. And when that window shuts, you're never going to reach out to anybody. You're not going to call anybody. You're not going to do anything to change what's going on. So the question becomes, how do we avoid this mess? Well, the best way is to never let that thing open in the first place, right? Why are you sitting on the couch doing nothing? That's the question. Perhaps at no point in your recovery did it ever occur to you that sitting around being completely bored is dangerous. That's a possibility. If that's the case, listen really carefully. Don't let yourself get bored. Did you hear that? Don't let yourself get bored. If you do, you're in deep trouble. You're in deep trouble. There are people on the boat that I talk to, and there are people on the boat that I'm really starting to get to know, and everybody is a little different. And I don't talk about people's personal stuff on the boat ever, but I'm going to use Heather as an example because I don't think it's going to bum her out. Heather doesn't have any downtime. Heather doesn't have any downtime. If there's no downtime in your life, people will say, you need to relax a little bit more. Take a little time. I get 30 of those emails a week. Tommy, you need to take a little bit more time for yourself. And do what? I mean, honestly, in all due respect, what am I going to do? Because this is what I love. I love this. I love watches. What am I going to do in that downtime? Sit around? Okay. Sit around and watch TV? Well, page 2, Tommy did a crap load of that. And by the Q litmus test, did you do that a lot when you were getting wasted? Then don't do it anymore. Well, I did that a lot when I was getting wasted. One of the things about substances is once you feel comfortable in your own skin, you don't feel jumpy, right? Because truthfully, feeling uncomfortable in your own skin, you've seen videos. If your substance of choice was not something that was physically addicting, you've all seen the videos, right? You've seen the Ray Charles movie or whatever. The person's pacing back and forth looking like a caged animal, right? They're literally just so uncomfortable in their own skin, but you give them that hit. You let that needle break the skin. You take that sip. You do whatever it is that you do. And instantly, when that feeling is gone, there's a flood of relief that I no longer feel awful. What do we do with that relief? We sit down, we chill out in a room with 4 walls. And in the process of doing this, we train our brain, just like that rodent I was telling you about that does the same amount of dope every day in the same place. Well, we're doing the same thing, right? What's comfort to you? Well, it's a hit of smack. It's the couch and those 4 walls. And every time I get comfortable, I mean, it's not like you do your substance of choice and go, great, I got 14 things I'm going to go do. Maybe if your substance of choice is methamphetamine. But the vast majority of people, when they begin to use, they melt into the couch. Their butt grows roots, right? They hole up inside their house, right? And then what? We train the mind. 1 gram plus living room couch equals I'm comfortable in my own skin. 0.5 gram, plus my bedroom and a computer equals I'm comfortable in my own skin. Whatever that equation is. Well, you need to friggin' change it, like in a really quick fashion. Now we got to get rid of the dope. That's not going to be in that equation. So walking around and exercising plus eating right equals I'm comfortable in my own skin. Make sense? Keeping myself busy plus reaching out to people if I don't feel right equals sobriety. Comfortable in my own skin. There is a way, people, to to live a beautiful, comfortable life and do it without dope. If there wasn't, I wouldn't be here. For real. For those who understand YouTube, and we have a lot of people on here who are YouTubers. They have their own channels. They do their own stuff. I'm not going to get rich doing this. Not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because for 30 years in my life, I didn't believe there was a math equation that equaled comfortable in my own skin that didn't have heroin in it. 100%. I did not believe that that was possible. Shimmy says, I never even left the house on Monday. I'm going to put this on the record. I hate Mondays. Johnny? Not a big fan of Mondays. But it's a perfect example. Never left the house. Why would you? No reason. I know people, I kid you not. I knew people that used. My brother could back this up. We knew a guy that was a Vietnam veteran who got caught a habit on opiates, on H, while in Vietnam. And he came back to the States with that habit. He was 17 years older than I was. 17 years. And I would say that in the last 30 years of his life, he didn't travel more than 3 miles away from that house. I kid you not. And the only times that he ever did was in my car. He would call the dope man. The dope man would drive the stuff to his house. He would go into his house, go into the back bedroom, and get high. Feel comfortable in his own skin, go in the living room, and melt into the couch. Melt into the couch. Because that's how it happens, people. So you have to start asking yourself, am I allowing myself to be lazy? Am I allowing myself to be bored? Am I allowing myself to still be part of that math problem that doesn't have something to do with engaging my mind? I swear to you, people, how funny is it? And if you sent me one of those emails, I'm not picking on you. I really am not. But the email, do you have any suggestions about what I can do about boredom? What? Do something. Right? You're bored? Do something. Do something. Don't sit on the couch, right? Don't sit in the backyard. Do something. Do something different than what you did. They say change people, places, and things, right? Change actions and thoughts. Change your actions and change your thoughts. Because if you sit there and your brain isn't engaged, it will engage itself. I used to teach snowboarding. When I was a freshman in college, I used to give lessons in snowboarding. And the really funny thing about snowboarding, it's different than skiing in that it has, there's only 2 edges that you have to worry about, right? Skis have 4 metal edges, and you can catch that edge, right? So you're going down the hill and the ski catches, and all of a sudden you're thrown into the air. Well, on a snowboard, you have a toe edge, you have a heel edge. You're only going to be on one or the other. For that reason, you never point the board straight down the hill. There's always a slight angle one way or the other. You know why? Because you're on an edge. And I used to say to people, choose an edge, right? Always be on an edge, either your toe edge or your heel edge. Because if you don't choose an edge, the board's going to choose one for you. And when that happens, nothing good ever comes of it. You're going down the hill this way, perfectly straight, and the board chooses the backside. And instantly it throws you onto your butt. And most people put their hands down, and that's why people break their wrists snowboarding. Or, just as bad, it goes the other direction. You catch your toe edge, and you go slap, and it hits you straight on your face, right? Usually you get your hands down for that one too, and you break your wrists. So the reason I bring up that illustration is the brain is the exact same way. Give your brain something to think about and concentrate on. Because if you don't, it will choose something for you. And it is not your friend. You hear me? You better give your brain something to do. Be engaged. Have something to do that is going to be a thought. And that thought isn't going to be drugs. And I promise you, very often people who are really new in sobriety will reach out to me and they want me to say to them, okay, get a little salt, put it on the table. You're going to burn 2 candles. And then there's this ritual that we do. Like they literally want me to give them this hocus pocus that's going to immediately make everything happy as hell. It's going to get rid of any desire to do dope. They think, well, this dude's got 3,000 people that are listening to him on this whole sobriety thing. He must have a way to there's no magic in this. If you're bored, you're screwed. How's that? That'd be a decent t-shirt too. Trust me, from the standpoint of trying to remain sober. If you're bored, you're screwed. You're going to relapse. So when that boredom starts crawling in, the window begins to close. You better do something about it before that window closes. Because if you don't, if you let boredom run wild for a half an hour, you're in trouble. And you go, it doesn't mean I'm going to go get high. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It means you're going to start relapsing. Doesn't mean that you're going to go use. You might use 2 weeks from now, but you're starting the process of going in the wrong direction. A lot of times that first thought might not be, man, it would be great to get high. That first thought might be I've really come a long way. I'll bet you that if I did it all over again, and I'm not saying I'm gonna, but I bet if I did it all over again, I could probably control it. I'm not gonna, I'm never gonna, but I bet, knowing what I know now, if I were to do it all over again, then I could probably control it. And it might be 4 months of that thought. It might be a year of that thought. Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to use ever again, man. There's no way. No, I wouldn't do that. But I'm telling you right now, I can control it now. And it's just going to keep chipping away at you. Keep chipping away at you. Keep chipping away at you. And then one day, you're going to talk yourself into that line of crap. And then you'll test it. I wonder if I really could. Maybe I'll just go and drink a little. I got a guy in town here that I know, and I talked about him on the boat before. I talked about him a couple of times here on the boat. He's the guy that offered me a job. He's got an app that literally, you go onto this app and you say, I'm homeless. My drug of choice is alcohol. I'm not a veteran. I don't have insurance. You click all these things in and it spits you out. Here's what we're going to do to help. It's a great concept. And it was built by a guy who, very much like me, almost let substances destroy his life. And his substance of choice was alcohol. And one day he said to me, do you remember your last relapse? And I said, of course. Anybody sober remembers their last relapse. And he said, tell me about it. So I told him about it really quickly, blah, blah, blah. I said, do you remember yours? He said, yeah. He said, it took 9 days. I said, you got wasted for 9 days? He said, no. It took 9 days before I finally reached the physical stage. He said, what happened is a friend of his called him and said, hey, man, the playoffs are on. It's baseball season. He said, why don't you come by? And he knew, for him, baseball was a trigger. He said to me that he had never watched a game sober in his entire life. Didn't remember one game sober. He said, maybe when I was a little boy, but I don't remember them. But he went over there anyway. And the guy said to him, hey, man, you want a beer? And he said, no, man, I haven't had anything to drink in 6 months. And the guy said, 6 months? He said, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. He said, if you were an alcoholic, you couldn't have gone 6 months. Right? The drug or substance disorder mindset. You went 6 months? You can't be a lush, right? You're under control. You went 6 months. And he said, Tommy, he said, I got a beer from the refrigerator and I drank it. He said, and then I drank a second one and I said to myself, man, I got to stop right now. Just got to stop. And he did. So you think he relapsed that day? He was certainly in relapse that day. He went home. He said the next night, the guy said, hey, man, you going to come by again? Right? He said, they play again tonight. He went back over there. He said that night he had three. Just three. 5 beers in 2 days. This was a raging drinker. But he went back over there and he just had a couple more drinks, right? 3 of them. No big deal. And then he went home. And he said to me, and then his probation officer called him and said, I need to see you on Monday. This was the weekend. And he said, all right, I'll come down and see you on Monday. He was on probation for his 4th DWI. And he said, I got up in the morning and I knew that I had to go the following day. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to have a drink or two, this is the only time I could possibly do it because I have to see my probation officer on Monday. And he proceeded to take a bottle of pop-off vodka, which came in a plastic. He said, and I was squeezing it as hard as I could to force the stuff down my throat. He said, I went from 3 beers to killing a 5th in 3 chugs. When he went and saw the probation officer the following day, he was still completely loaded, right? Just wasted. They revoked him. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. Very much like me, that last stay in prison was good enough to, to keep him so that he's sober from this point on. But relapse takes as many forms as sobriety does. There are people on this boat who got sober 1,000 different ways. Doesn't really matter, right? Because you're sober. Relapse is the same thing. It doesn't make a rat's bit of difference. If you used, then it was a bad relapse, right? If you didn't learn anything from it, it was a god-awful relapse. So knowing full well that when you start feeling bored, right, the window on your sobriety starts dropping. Don't let it drop. You got to jump on it. And you got to jump on it instantly. Not that, I'm feeling a little weird. If this doesn't stop in a little while, man, you know what? Maybe I'll reach out to somebody in my 5. I'll give it 10 or 15 minutes and see if I'm still feeling weird. No. Bad. You start feeling weird, pick this up. Well, you know what? I'm not sure if I was really... Well, then make a mistake on the sober side, not on the other side. You want to hear something absolutely astonishing? I did not get a phone call today or an email or a text from anyone that said I relapsed yesterday. Because I get that every single day. Every day. When I reach out to those people, what do you think I say to them? Some of you have heard it, but what do you think I say to those people? I say, why are you reaching out to me now? Why didn't you reach out to me before you relapsed? Why didn't you reach out to me while that window was closing? So I'm going to beat the crap out of this so that everybody hears it. And you know what? I'm going to step on some toes. I'm going to hurt some feelings. You don't call somebody because you want to relapse. You want to relapse because your brain is telling you that losing and failing and being loaded is the only way you're going to be comfortable. That's it. Your brain, the enemy, has made it so that you, right now, believe that the only equation that is ever going to work is 6 beers plus sitting around equals I am comfortable in my own skin. You don't believe that you're going to be able to be comfortable without your substance of choice. And you're trying. You want it. You wanted it. You wouldn't be here. But when push comes to shove, you won't make that phone call. Right? You're quick as hell make it afterwards. Right? People have no problem at all reaching out to me afterwards, feeling really guilty. I bet 20 or 30 people on the boat have reached out to me in the grips of whatever their drug of choice is. Looped, wasted, tweaking, whatever you want to, pick a substance. I've been called on every single one of those. Just destroyed, intoxicated. Tommy, I just wanted to call and tell you that I really messed up, man. Well, maybe you should have called me 3 hours ago. People, don't let boredom creep into your life. Don't let boredom creep into your life. If you do, you're going to be making a phone call to me, either hungover or in the process of being wasted, right? Or out of the bag of dope that you bought and wishing that you could do anything on this planet to turn back the hands of time 10 hours, to have that decision back. And you're going to wring your hands and you're going to tell me you're an idiot. Don't make the phone call after you made the mistake, right? You got a number, call it before you made a mistake. And, well, how do I know? Oh, you know. Trust and believe you know. There's nobody on this boat that doesn't know when they're starting. They may not pick up the real subtleties. If they're just being a little angry or a little nitpicky and they're in the emotional stage, they may not pick up on that. You know, I've seen people that just don't seem to get that. But when you're to that mental stage, when you're to that part where you're thinking about romanticizing your drug, or you're thinking about how, man, I could probably handle it. Well, then you know damn well you're in relapse. Those aren't thoughts that happen when you're not in relapse. You're not too far gone at that point. You're not. You know, I had somebody call me, I'm not kidding you, in the parking lot of a liquor store recently. They called me and said, you know what, man, the whole way over here I kept saying, I'm not going to call him, I'm not going to call him, I'm not going to call him. I said, where are you? I'm in the parking lot of a liquor store. I said, okay. So you want to get loaded? I said, all right. I'm not going to talk you out of it. You want to get drunk? Get drunk. But we're going to spend the entire time on the phone together. I want to talk to you while you're doing it. Apparently that ruined the whole concept of being drunk for this individual because that was enough to say, no, I don't think so. And then we spent about an hour on the phone. And at the end of that conversation, you know what the person said to me? And I'm telling you this gospel truth. Thank God I called. Thank God I called. It didn't take something epic. I didn't come up with the moment where I said something just so genius. No, I just stayed on the phone. I just talked to him. I talked to him. He talked himself out of it while I was on the phone. That's all it is. And that's the same thing that's going to happen with the people from year 5. They'll talk themselves out of it. You just need to be on the damn phone with them. Right? That is it. I promise you. So, we're getting up to that time of the night. So, let us see what has been going on in the comment section while I have been waxing philosophically on all things relapse. Let me check and see here. First of all, Zenwen, thank you. You're appreciated. You really are. And you don't have to do it every day, Sen. You don't. You really don't. And I hope that I sent an email to you. I appreciate you. I really do. More than you can know. Story time with Uncle Bill. Oh, that's a great name. Let's see. Uncle Bill, I am very, very sure that I have never said hello to you. But I am really, really glad that you are here. Hey, Tommy, first live. Big fan of Johnny. I'm not going to hold that against you. You're probably all right anyway. I am an addict and ex-inmate and doing well off the drugs. Hope everyone is having a good night. Bill, I am so glad you're here, man. And congratulations that you're on the right side of the gate. And even more congratulations that you're sober. Man, that is awesome. It really is. And I am glad that you're here. We're here virtually every night. Sometimes either on Wednesday or Thursday I may take a day off. But for the most part, we're here every day on the 5s, Pacific time. So 5 o'clock Pacific on the PM, 5 o'clock Pacific on the AM. And stop by and see us in the morning. It's a great way to just get fired up before the day starts. And you'll get to know all the people on the boat. And I'm telling you, this channel is about all the people on the boat. It really is. That's what it's about. So we would love to see you there. We really would. So glad you're here. I don't think I could be hungover at this age. Mr. Egan, I'll tell you something. I had a conversation with somebody the other day who is in the process of trying to get sober on opiates. And I said to him, man, I cannot. I mean, I've hit that age where every day something breaks down on my body. You know, there's just something every day that's going wrong. And, you know, it's crazy because when you're in your 40s, it's like you still feel like you're in your 30s. On really good days, you feel like you're 28. right? And then you hit your 50s and it's like all of a sudden now you feel like you're 60. And I said to the person, oh man, I can't imagine being dope sick at this age. You know what I mean? Like I cannot imagine what that would be like. So that makes complete sense to me. Colburn, I'm glad you're here, bud. Colburn, I was talking about you this morning. I don't know if you were here, but I think I mentioned you this morning. Zenwen says, I have 3 years sobriety from illegal drugs, but I'm on day 1 in sobriety for 100% healthy eating. I used to be an extreme health nut, and I used to work out every day. Not sure what happened. Sure you are. Sure you are. You know what happened. You know, we get away from a schedule. We get away from something that we do every single day, and your baseline, what makes your brain comfortable, is no longer healthy eating, working out, all that. The beautiful thing is you can get it back. People, what you got to realize, Zenwen's a perfect example right now. If by some chance you get back on the rails and you begin to work out every day, you get up every single day and you make your bed, right? Every day. And all of these things are falling into place. Do you know what's going to happen, crew? Do you know what's going to happen? That's going to be your baseline. Your brain is going to make you feel uncomfortable in your own skin if you're not doing those things. I promise you, it's how it works. You can train this piece of crap we call a brain. You can, and that's a beautiful thing. That really is what happens when we are at Diary of a Madman. I'm glad to see you. I really am. Tommy Bird. The boat truly keeps me from relapses so much more than any other support I have. Man, do you have any idea how that makes me feel? Man? I love hearing that. I really do. You guys are great. Lori Art, good to see you. Glad that you're here. I haven't been on the Fecal Matter show that is Facebook in a long time. Might have to cave and check it out. Please do, Bert. I don't think you'll regret it. I would say 98% of the time, every single thing you see there is going to be positive and uplifting. And we're working on 100. We really are. We're working to it. Lori Art says, Tommy, you helped me today. I'm very grateful. Oh, it's awesome. It really is. Lori, that makes me feel awesome. It really does. I'm so happy to hear that. And I mean that. That's my drug of choice these days. I'm not kidding. Like that right there, that's what makes the brain chemical in my brain turn on. That may sound silly. You know, it really might. But what I want my baseline to be is that. That's what I want. That's what I want to feel all the time. I want there to be enough people getting help all the time that I can just kind of look out over the deck of the boat and go, man, we're doing something. You know? Because we're in a world that, let's be really honest, people, there's not a lot of folks out there doing what we are doing right here. Right? We really are going out of our way to fix the planet, you know, one addict at a time. And Noise Opera, thank you very much, brother. Really happy, man. I was talking about you today at length. I really was. A long conversation about you today. Because I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything else, but if someone were to say to me, you know, what do you think if there are 3 or 4 success stories that you could think of on the lifeboat, or the lifeboat just changed somebody, you'd be the first name that came to my mind. That's the truth. You just really has been, it's remarkable what you've done. I mean, honestly. And you know what? Since I said something really, really nice, I'm going to go the other direction here real quick. I don't think anybody here would have liked you. Honestly, I'm just being straight. You know, and they wouldn't have liked me either. I've said that a million times on the boat. You guys would not have liked who I used to be. But Noise Opera today versus Noise Opera a year and a half ago, man, when you talk about somebody becoming a different person, like this cat became a different person. 100% a different person. I don't know if you guys remember, I posted about it and I asked for some prayers and everything else because he was up in Canada and they had that atmospheric river storm that washed away a city. Like, I'm not joking, you people. And he took some great pictures of it. The roads were washed away, like houses were coming down. It was terrifying how it was raining. Like it was a flood coming from the sky. Just bizarre. And I was really concerned, and I was reaching out to him and sending texts and just saying, everybody on the boat is praying for you, dude. Just please let me know. Yeah, his whole town was underwater. He's not exaggerating this much. This much. He had a picture of the road going out of town. Jennifer Rice, good to see you. So it's really just ugly how nasty this was. And on the way out of town, the road was gone. And I don't mean the water was over the top of it. It washed it away. There was nothing. You would have driven right off into nothingness. And, we were praying and everybody was worried about him. And he was trying to get enough internet feed to let us know that he was okay because there was just not much going on with internet. But whatever was in that rain, when that was over, he just was not the same person. And the change was so much for the better. He was just, he went from being not a very nice person to being one of the nicest people I've ever met. It was just amazing. And I'm really glad you're here, brother. I really am. Seventh, thank you for the donations. Love the jokes. I really do. Seventh is just consistent. He really is. Franklin, did I hear 36 days? Thank you as well for the donation. But did I hear 36 days? So you are deep into the second month, right? We're almost at the 5-week mark. Man, I hope you are as proud of you as we are, because that's the dream. And once again, a really great brain chemical. Like I absolutely love hearing that. I really do. Those are the kind of things that just flood my brain, with dopamine. There's no other way to put it. That's exactly what happens. It floods my dome with dopamine. And Brandon Galloway, 8 days sober. That boy. Proud of you, man. This boat helped me get out of water, literally. It really did. That was the ugliest storm I've ever seen. And they're talking about the same phenomenon is supposed to be happening right now in the next week and a half over where I'm living, except it's all going to be frozen water, but that's where we're at. All right, peeps, we are at the top of the hour, and that can only mean a couple of things. One, of course, that it means, and probably the one that everybody hangs out for, is that it's time for the diva to make her entrance. It also means that Marth is going to serenade us out of here. I've been doing this all day. I really have. I have been doing this all day. Marth, thank you. We love the theme song. We really do. All right, peeps. I am going to be back tomorrow morning at 5, and I will be back tomorrow night. Same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. Monk, check your emails. M. Hunt, your chronometer is on its way. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and that's a cat in the basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.